Go for me.
Hello, this is Elizabeth Riley with Act Locally Waco. Today is Thursday, September 11th. And while we have a lot going on today is a hugely remembered day in American history, we have some other things to chat about. So, first, before we get into absolutely anything, I would like to shout out Debbie Miller from Corsicana, who's dropped off these amazing art pieces. You can find her online at Debbie Rose Miller on Instagram and DebbieMillerStudio.com online anywhere. So, if you are interested in any of these, they're for sale. You can either message us, Act Locally Waco, or Debbie Rose Miller on Instagram. You can also find Act Locally Waco anywhere that it matters, Instagram, Facebook, and on our website, actlocallywaco.org. We actually have a weekly newsletter that comes out every Friday called The Whole Enchilada, where you can get a list of events happening in our community, as well as more commentary from yours truly. So if you're interested in that, check it out, subscribe. You can also subscribe here on our YouTube channel for morning shows, every single morning, 7:30. You can also follow me over to the Zach Owen Show, where I bring you Nashville news and some more Act Locally Waco news. And you can also find segments on the Ann Harder Show. So, as I said, today is a hugely remembered day in American history. It is September 11th, 2025, and that marks 24 years since the deadliest terrorist attack on American soil. Early in the morning on September 11th, 2001, two hijacked aircrafts collided with the World Trade Center in New York City, and another commercial airliner crashed into the Pentagon in D.C. A fourth and final plane ended in a field in Pennsylvania due to passengers and crew who fought the hijackers, preventing them from reaching their final target. Today, you can expect practically every cable channel to be playing some documentary or docuseries depicting a different perspective from today's events. And there are still stories coming out nearly 25 years later, and each and every single one of them deserves to be heard and shared. So, while every news channel, newspaper, and media site is covering the tragedy of today's terrorist attacks that occurred in 2001, I thought I'd bring you some additional history regarding today, this state here in Texas, and the great sport of American football. If you didn't know, today is Paul Bear Bryant's birthday. It's also my bestie Meredith's birthday. Happy birthday, love. If you just asked who Paul Bear Bryant is, you're about to learn a lot today, but also get out from under the rock that you're living under. Crazy. So, born September 11th in 1913 in Kingsland, Arkansas, Paul Bryant would become the winningest coach in American college football history, only to be recently dethroned by another University of Alabama head coach, Nick Saban. But I have to admit that Bear Bryant set up the culture of Alabama football and what it means to become an actual dynasty. So just before his time at Alabama, Paul Bear Bryant was actually a head coach just down the road in College Station at Texas A&M. In 1954, Bear was hired to bring respectability back to A&M. It was a tough place to recruit players since the Aggies were a cellar team in the Southwest Conference. There were no girls. It was mostly military with ROTC, and that was including all of the athletes. And it was often referred to as the poor boys' school or a cow college. It was the brunt of a lot of jokes. Also, the campus looked like a penitentiary. Kind of still does. Anyways, when he arrived for spring training in 1954, Paul Bear Bryant did not like what he saw. In those days, there were two teams for Texas A&M, a freshman and a varsity team, and they each had their own scheduled games. And he could recruit new players, but they would not be eligible to play on the varsity squad until their sophomore year. So he was just stuck with all of the leftovers from his predecessor. So he was not impressed, and he was determined to weed out the losers. So that August, to remove the team from the anxious eyes of the mamas and papas in the media, which I think Nick Saban definitely took note of, he loaded the team into 3 buses, and he took them to an isolated and terribly rugged training camp in Junction, Texas, for what became one of the most legendary and toughest football training camps in history. So Junction is located approximately 115 miles northwest of San Antonio and about 140 miles west of Austin in central Kimball County, near the western end of the Texas Hill Country. So when we get back from a break, we are going to dive into the Junction Boys and the 10 days of hell that Coach Paul Bear Bryant put the Aggies through. There was actually a movie released about them in 2002, which was filmed in Australia. So all of the players have fake Texan accents, and they're all literally Australian. Anyways, we're going to get to a break, and then we will get back into Bear Bryant and the Junction Boys after this.
Everyone is born with different gifts and skills. Everyone is unique and has something that only they can offer this world. And everyone has different needs that help them accomplish their day-to-day goals and challenges. But there's one thing that everyone needs, no matter who they are. Breathe cleaner. Puro Air.
Every dog deserves a second chance in a loving home. And you brew Grounds and Hounds, you're helping to fund that second chance for a rescue pup in need. They'll brew a second cup, and let's change the world for every pup. One cup at a time. Visit us at groundsandhoundscoffee.com.
With over 50 years in the industry, Arriva Hospitality Group has been delighting guests with unforgettable experiences across Mexico. Our investors enjoy trust and impressive returns, while our guests, whether on vacation or business, keep coming back for more fun and memories. At Arriva Hospitality Group, we are looking for investors who share our dream of making people happy while our investments grow. Take a closer look at arrivahotels.mx.
I just got my Colgate Advanced LED Whitening Treatment in the mail, and I am very excited to have dramatically whiter teeth in just 10 days. My teeth are going to be 6 shades whiter. The treatment is enamel safe and hassle-free. It's even designed for my sensitive teeth. Let's open it up. Inside we have the blue light whitening device. It's a charger for after each treatment as well. There's a full 10-day supply, and it looks easy to apply. Order yours today at shop.colgate.com.
Welcome back to Act Locally Live. Today is Paul Bear Bryant's birthday, so we are talking about his time coaching at Texas A&M and the legendary football camp that once was the Junction Boys. So at the time of this football camp, the Hill Country was experiencing a severe heat wave, and it was in the midst of one of the worst droughts recorded in the history of this region, and it had already lasted 4 years, and it was going to last another 2 years after this camp happened. According to the National Climatic Data Center, all 10 days of the camp took place in high temperatures, with a few days topping 100 degrees. 100 degrees in Texas is brutal, wherever you are. So all of these boys arrived to camp excited, full of life, ready to play football. They just want to be an Aggie and to play football. But Junction was just a fly speck on the map of Texas. When the 2 to 3 Greyhound buses made their way through the winding 2-lane highways, there was nothing but rocks, sand spurs, rattlesnakes, and turkey buzzards. And nobody knew what Paul Bear Bryant had in mind. Like, why was he bringing us here? What are we doing? But he pulled him up to the outpost in the Rocky Hills of the Hill Country. And the facilities in Junction at this campsite were beyond Wild West standards. There was no water or ice on the practice field. There was no working AC in the dormitories, and there was only one fan available on site throughout all of the bunks and dormitory areas. Bryant immediately tasked 2 teammates with building the goalposts, the uprights that they would be using for practice as soon as they stepped out on that field. And practices were beginning before dawn, before the sun was up. They lasted all day long with meetings in the evening to go over absolutely everything that they did until 11 p.m. The oppressive heat, combined with brutal practice schedules, was far too much for some of the players, and each and every day there were fewer and fewer people reporting for practice, and many were quitting the team from illness or disgust as to how they were treated. But, and I quote, Bear Bryant said he wanted to separate the quitters from the keepers. Players were pushed to their absolute physical and mental limits, with assistant coaches acting as like damn near drill sergeants. And each day, exhausted players were literally physically dragged off the field, off the practice fields, and some could barely walk due to blind wobbles. At the end of the day, they would rush to the shower room and gulp water from the faucets because, like I said, there was no ice or no water on the practice field. And then throughout the night, you could hear them screaming in pain because their body was cramping. Oh my gosh. So at the end of practices, sometimes they would like head down into the river to cool off, but otherwise they would head to the showers, head to bed. Some players just couldn't handle it and they ran off in the middle of the night. Some hitchhiked their way back to College Station. But those who were brave enough to tell Coach Bear Bryant that they were quitting received a bus ticket back. He had a stack of prepaid bus tickets in his office desk for the people that wanted to go home. He had zero problem sending them back. The situation was overall worsened by Bear Bryant's refusal to allow water breaks. This practice now, hugely illegal. At the time, it was commonly employed by coaches in all levels of play to like toughen up their players. And the only relief that these players would get would be a water-soaked towel, but there were only 2 of them. One shared by the entire offense and one shared by the entire defense. It was later said in an interview that some players sweated away nearly 10% of their body fat, their body weight. Obviously, you're dehydrated, you're not allowed any water, and then you are sweating profusely because you are working out to the max capacity that your body will allow for 12 hours a day. Oh my gosh. Multiple players thought that they were just straight up going to die, not only from dehydration and heat stroke, but also like the physical pain and injuries that went untreated. Doctors were called in, they showed up, they were there to treat them, but players would just go right back out there to play under Bear. There were broken noses, broken bones, sprains, strains. The closest doctor was miles away in downtown Junction from where the campsite was, and the trainer, Smokey Harper, who would come to check on these players, was more of a drinking buddy for Bryant than a reliever of pain for the players. And he had 2 remedies. Quote, if the pain is above the neck, take an aspirin. If a pain is below the neck, take a hot shower. Are we kidding? These guys were being tortured. Over 100 players have often been depicted as making the trip to Junction, but the survivors, that's what they call themselves. I wish I was kidding. They call themselves the survivors of Junction. Insist that the number was quite small. So it's debated on whether or not it was 2 to 3 Greyhound buses, how many players were actually taken. It's like 100 to 115. I've seen some numbers. So although Bryant started out with over 100 people on the roster, many had already quit or been cut before they even arrived to camp, and then that number was just exponentially growing with the pressure that they were put under. By the end of the 10-day camp, there was only a fraction of those left. And the list of survivors varies, again, from 29 to 39. Going from 100 to like 30 people, 40 people, oh my goodness. The stories that have come out of Junction vary, But an extraordinary fellowship was forged through the mind-numbing pain that these players were put through, and the 30 to 40 survivors bonded together like no other team in America. They claimed that they profited from the Junction experience, the knowledge that they took back with them to College Station about themselves, what they were capable of. It would be used for the rest of their lives. However, there will never, ever be another Paul Bear Bryant and Junction, Texas hell camp, because the next year the NCAA outlawed preseason camps beyond campus, and today Paul Bear Bryant might just be jailed for what he subjected the players to some 50 years ago. So we are going to take another break, and we will get into how this played out for the Aggies through their season, but you'll hear about it right after this.
When you view the glass half full, the little things become magical. Like kicking back and sharing laughs, spread good vibes, and they'll come back. Celebrate what you love with what you wear, even if what you love is kind of weird. Life is good in super soft tees that spark smiles and connectivity. 10% of profits go to help kids heal. So choose optimism and make the magic real. Visit lifeisgood.com.
What I love most about playing basketball is the competition. I really just like being shifty, mastering hesitation moves, changing direction, building chemistry with new teammates. If you're not having fun while you're playing, there's no point in playing the game. You know what to do. Escape Basic. Pair of Thieves quick dry underwear. It wicks away sweat and helps keep you dry. You looking forward to fishing season?
Let's unbox the all-new Walking Pad X21. It is the hottest thing on the fitness market right now. Whew. I like it. I like it a lot. Well done, Walking Pad. So after using the Walking Pad, I absolutely loved it. For the price, I adore it. I highly recommend it.
I've gotten a lot of questions as to where people can find the best supplements.
And that's why we have the Swell Score, because we have created this platform where our team of researchers and doctors have come together to bring top-notch quality supplements and information.
We make sure that if we are recommending a product, that it hasn't been reviewed by the same company that is producing that product.
Now we have a resource that we can do that.
Welcome back to Act Locally Live. I'm your host, Elizabeth Riley, and we are going to finish talking about Paul Bear Bryant to celebrate his birthday today and how the season played out for the Texas A&M Aggies after their hell week in Junction, Texas. Unfortunately, in the opening season of the game, the Aggies lost to Texas Tech 41-9. And after that, the season did not turn around for them, ending up 1-9 on the season. Ooh, that's brutal. That is rough. Imagine going through absolute hell just to be, oh. This is the only losing season in Paul Bear Bryant's career, and he never again suffered another 30-point loss in a game. The next year, in 1955, the Aggies were the surprise team of the conference with a winning season. Yay! In the game against Rice, they scored 3 touchdowns in the last 3 minutes and 28 seconds of the game for one of the most thrilling comebacks in school history. In 1956, the year after, they reversed the score of Bryant's first game against Texas Tech, beat the University of Texas for the first time in Austin, went undefeated, and won the Southwest Conference Championship for the first time since World War II. The next year, 1957, they beat out Oklahoma for the number 1 ranking after remaining undefeated for 18 games. That year, John David Crow won the Heisman Trophy for the Aggies. And then came the absolute sucker punch. So you have Junction, the turnaround seasons following after, and the rebuild that Paul Bear Bryant was able to do at Texas A&M. And then, with only 2 games left in the regular season, the day before the Rice game, Bear announced that he was going home to mama and to be the head coach of his alma mater at Alabama. Everyone was in shock, obviously. All of the Aggies felt as though the rug had been pulled out from under them, and they were outscored by Rice. They lost the game 6-7. The next game was even worse. They lost 7-9. And then they lost to Tennessee in the postseason Gator Bowl 3-0. They scored a total of 6 points in the last 3 games after Bear announced that he was leaving. That's devastating. You guys were on a roll. You had so much momentum built up behind the image of this head coach. And he's like, I'm gone. And then y'all just lose it all? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. However, in 2008, 19 of the Junction Boys had a 54th anniversary reunion at a ranch in Texas, and the remaining members agreed to have a reunion every 5 years. In April of 2010, the surviving Junction Boys were honored by the Texas Children's Cancer Center at an evening with the Texas Legends in Houston, and Bryant would later go on to say that what he did to the Junction Boys was one of his biggest regrets. He admitted that if he had been one of them, he would have quit. And he was extremely proud and protective of the Junction Boys and what they were able to produce. And he only ever wore one piece of jewelry, despite winning many national championship rings. And that was one that the Junction Boys gave him at one of these reunions. So when Bryant died, that was the only piece of jewelry he was wearing, and that's the only piece of jewelry that he was buried with, and that was a gold ring inscribed with Junction Boys, and still remaining with him at the cemetery, the Elmwood Cemetery in Birmingham, Alabama. So what a story, what a comeback, what a fall. Oh my goodness. Paul Bear Bryant with the Texas A&M Aggies, before he built the dynasty that became Alabama, before Nick Saban then took over the dynasty that became Alabama. And now college football looks a lot different. A lot different. Anyways, today is Thursday, September 11th. And if you didn't know, every 11th of each month, there is a movement called the Buddy Check Day, and it is dedicated to fostering connections with veterans. So every month on the 11th, it is encouraged that you take a moment to check in on a veteran and ensure that they are doing well and that they are informed of resources that are available to them if they are struggling. So go check on your buddies, make sure they're doing okay. Have a conversation. That's always a good start. I'm Elizabeth Riley with Act Locally Waco. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Act Locally Waco. You can also find us online at actlocallywaco.org. If you haven't had enough of me, follow me over to the Zach Owen Show, where I bring you Nashville news and some more Act Locally Waco segments. You can also hear me live on the Ann Harder Show. So there's lots of things that you can do. If you don't want to hear my voice, you can head over to our website and read up on some of our blogs that are posted. Those are probably a bit more coherent and concise than this early morning rambling, but you read them and you let me know. Get back to me. I'm yet again Elizabeth, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a good one, y'all.